Why are toxic relationships invisible? Um, that's something I try to understand myself as a survivor of domestic violence. Why was it so invisible? Why didn't I see it myself? Why didn't my surroundings understand that something was happening at home? It took me quite a while to understand what was happening myself, because I didn't know about the hidden system behind toxic relationships, because I didn't recognize the signs, because I didn't have role models, because I didn't think I was in a toxic relationship, because when it started out like a fairy tale. It felt really good. I felt seen and supported and loved, and I felt like I have met my soulmate. So I just trusted everything was okay, but it was not. And it's really difficult to understand that somebody you love, or that you started to love so much, can change in somebody who starts to hate you. So you do not understand. We trust people. We have a tendency to believe in the good of people. So it's really difficult to understand that somebody is there to harm you, and that you live with that person in the house. Really difficult to understand. So why is it so invisible? Why does it remain invisible? When I talk about it, I try to make the invisible visible, and I do that through art and through my book. Oh, something's coming out. Through the book, through talks, and through sharing here on YouTube. But trying to make it visible is not an easy thing, because when I talk about my relationship, I talk about the whole story. And most of the times when I talk to people, they talk about a picture they have taken, like a snapshot of that situation with that person, or conversation they had with that person, or a meeting they had with that person, or a day they had with that person, but they never talk about the whole relationship. They never talk about 365 days of being with that person, because as a family member or a partner, you are with that person 365 days of the year. This means that you have a totally different understanding of how it feels to be with them day in, day out. Because sometimes it feels like they really love you and they care for you, and sometimes it feels like they hate you. They think you're disgusting. You can feel their resentment. So how can we make the hidden system behind toxic relationships visible? That's something that I'm trying to do again and again and again, and it's really hard. What I understand so far is when I talk about it to other survivors, they immediately understand what I'm talking about. But when I talk to somebody who has never been in a toxic relationship, or perhaps is in a toxic relationship but doesn't know about the pattern, so cannot recognize the pattern, it's really hard. It feels like you're talking about something that they cannot or do not understand. So how do you make it possible? How do you make it visible? And I have an exhibition next week, and one of the things I will bring with me is an art installation that is called Death by 1,000 Cuts, because that's how it feels in a toxic relationship. It doesn't start bad. It starts really nice. It starts really good. Perhaps too good to be true. And then as you continue into the relationship, what felt like being recognized for who you are, being celebrated for, being loved for, now they start to turn that into weak points, into negative points, into negative comments. You're not tidy enough, you're not pleasant enough, you're not positive enough, you're too greedy, you're too stupid, you're not handy, you're not whatever. There's so many things that are being said, that if they continue to say that, then doubt starts to creep in. And it's the doubt that becomes louder in your head. And if you allow the negative comments to become louder in your head, it's like poison. And that's why the art installation, Death by 1,000 Cuts, it is so, to me, feels so true, because that's exactly how it works. It's like receiving a teaspoon of poison every single day until you don't know who you are anymore. You don't know how you can leave anymore. You don't have the strength anymore to stand up and leave. It's the same with the cuts. They cut you until you bleed. Until you bleed, and you just don't know anymore who you are or who to turn to, because of the fact that they have isolated you from friends and family. You have nobody to turn to anymore. So it's really, really hard to understand. And there's something I want to read that I talk about in my book. Is it me? Because what I hear a lot, I listen to podcasts, and I dive into the matter, and I talk to people all the time about this topic. And what is so obvious is that it's a pattern. It's a pattern that is being used on us. And as long as we do not know the pattern, we cannot recognize it. It feels like we all talk about the same person, but we're not. These stories are all different, but it feels like we talk about the same person, because the characteristics, the way they treat us, the way it starts, the way it continues, the way it ends is all the same. And it's, how can it remain so invisible for so long? That's almost something that I cannot understand. At the same time, I have been in a toxic relationship myself, in several, and I didn't see it. And it's because we don't talk about it. It's because we don't share the stories that we lived through. We don't share our lived experiences because we are ashamed of what happened to us. I had chosen that partner, and now I'm ashamed to tell to people, to acknowledge the fact that that was wrong choice. But at the time that I took the choice, nothing was wrong with the partner. He was just lovely. So, and then it changes over time, and then you start to doubt yourself. And how are you going to talk? How are you going to express to your family and friends now that the partner that you thought was amazing is not that amazing anymore? It's really difficult. So I have a chapter which is called, I'm going to only read a small part, Death by 1,000 Cuts. To make it even more complicated, they make sure you have enough good weeks, good days, good hours, or at least some good moments to cherish. This makes you hopeful again, makes you doubt again, and gets you all confused about your own judgment. But then the cycle of abuse starts again, and you wish you had already left. The longer you stay, the more cuts you endure, and the weaker you become. You become so intoxicated by their behavior and treatment that all energy and sparkle just leaves you. It is a very slow death by 1,000 cuts, while nobody has a clue about what is happening within the four walls of the place you call home. And the chapter continues, but I just wanted to highlight that it's so invisible. How is it possible that it's so invisible, that we endure these cuts again and again and again for days in a row, weeks, months, years in a row, and that nobody sees it in our environment, that friends and family don't even see what's happening. And when you leave and you start talking about what happened to you in bits and pieces, because you don't, how can you express something that you don't understand yourself? So you start to expressing yourself, and people go like, I'm not sure what she's talking about. And the only thing you hear is silence, because nobody understands you. And they can't, because it's invisible. So I'll take that art installation, Death by 1,000 Cuts, with me to Ålesund which is a city, a marvelous city here in Norway. I have an exhibition at Mottaket, and I hope to share some of the videos and the talks about other art installations I have with me from there as well. So keep an eye out for that one as well. Thanks for joining, and let me know if there's any question you want me to answer, and I'll dive deep into the matter, because what I understand as a survivor of abuse is that I keep on learning myself. Although I have tons of wisdom and lived experiences I gathered along the way, I still learn a ton about the subject and what narcissistic behavior is all about. So leave me a comment, I'll dive into it, and I'll let you know. See you. Take care.